Dan Pfister has been a marketer for over 20 years and has spent thousands of hours testing and implementing a wide variety of sales growth strategies. In total, they've generated over 50,000 customers and have allowed him to work with brands like Fidelity Investments and Tony Robbins. Though many strategies have generated outstanding results for Dan, nothing in his experience has generated revenue faster or more predictably than WinBack. It was the strength and reliability of WinBack that motivated Dan to found Strategic WinBack and become an evangelist for this undervalued and underappreciated sales strategy. He's going to share the details with us today. Welcome to the podcast, Dan.
Thanks so much for having me, Pat. Greatly appreciate it.
Well, I'm excited for our conversation. I like to always start out by asking my guests to explain what they do and then kind of more importantly, why. Why do you do it?
Well, I help people win back their past customers. And really, the reason why is that most businesses, they're sitting on this, this huge revenue engine, and all they need to do is just turn it on and start it. They've already done all this hard work, right? They've got these customers that they had. They did all the hard work of generating those leads, turning them into customers, and now they've gone. And these are the some of the easiest sales you'll ever make. So
yes. So how did you get interested in this topic?
Well, in 2016. Let me just back up a little bit. So I'm a partner in a company called the Business Source, and we have about 50,000 customers. And in 2016, we had a particularly bad year for attrition. And so what I did is I wanted to take a look, and I wanted to see exactly what this was costing us. That was one of the things I did. So typically I just take a look at the lost subscription revenue, that was just coming up. But this time what I did is I added up I took that and I added the lost referral revenue, the lost upsell revenue, the lost cross-sell revenue, and then I added all the cost of replacing that customer. Yeah. And so, when you add up all those numbers, it's a little spooky, So then what I did is I took that number and I multiplied it by the number of customers we'd lost, and it was just shocking, So what I did is I thought, okay, like, something's got to be done. Like, we're just bleeding revenue, right? So something had to be done. It had to be done now. So what I did is I created this program to win back past these clients. And it was pretty crude because there's so little out there at the time on customer win back. Yes. So I put something together, and I really wasn't that optimistic, right? Because we had already done a lot of retention work. We'd already done ad hoc outreach to our past customers to some degree. So there really, how big was this pool of prospects that we could generate sales from? Anyway, long story short, we launched and the ROI was like 57x. It was just nuts. Like nothing I had ever done, like in 20 years of marketing, right? Nothing I'd ever done had generated this much revenue in this little time at so little cost. It was just kind of like a revelation,
Wow.
And so I just became enamored with it. This is just nuts. So we over the last 4 years, we've really optimized the process, and we've done a lot of other things. And maybe later on in our chat we can talk about those things.
Yeah. So what made the ROI so high?
Well, if you think of ROI, it's just basically what you invest and what the returns are, right? Okay. So with WinBack, it costs next to nothing to win somebody back, right? You can pretty well get them back with phone outreach or email outreach, or maybe some direct mail. So it's basically very cheap, and the returns are stellar. I mean, a past customer is worth more than a new customer, right? I think we get about 120, the second time around, we get about 120% of what we do the first time around. And, that's pretty typical. Harvard Business Review, they did a study on 40,000 or 50,000 lost customers, and they found about the same thing. So there you go.
Yeah. Wow. And so that makes a lot of sense when we always hear that statement about it's easier to keep your current customer than find a new one. Well, it's easier to win back somebody than find a new one, right?
100%, definitely.
Yeah. So why does WinBack generate such high revenue for clients?
Well, there's really three factors. The first factor is the average business loses about half of its customers within 4 years, right? So most businesses have a fairly significant pool of past customers. Um, and our research shows that about 1 in 4 past customers will return if approached well, like with some kind of a strategic win-back process. And when they return, as I just mentioned, they're very valuable. Our research showed that the lifetime value doubled for about half the people, about 47%, and it more than doubled for, I think it was 48%. So, that's when I mentioned that, we did 120% more. So, it's they're very valuable people, right? So when you combine a large pool of these people, you add that a lot of them convert, and then you multiply that by the amount of money they all generate. It's pretty tremendous. And I just want to say one thing is that the 1 in 4 is more for customers who you've lost in the last, say, 18 months to 2 years. It's not for people that you've lost, 2 year or 3 or 4 years ago. They're not going to return at that same rate.
Yes. And so does this have to do with the fact that they already know and like and trust you? And so that's why it's easier to get them to come back?
Oh yeah, that's huge, right? You've already climbed this huge mountain, right? You've already, put out ads and paid for leads, paid for ads, done social selling. You've out of those millions of people, you found that small group who might be interested, and then you start educating them, and you lose a bunch, and then you
Yeah.
and then you build, and then there's only so many you can build relationships for, and all that's very expensive. And with WinBack, you've already done that, right? You've got your leads, they're free in your CRM, they already exist there, you don't have to pay for them. And you've already built those relationships, just like you said, and educated the customers. Yeah.
So you're talking about actual customers, not just prospects, but people who have paid you in the past. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about at this level. Of course, you can certainly go back to dormant leads, and we can talk about those a little bit later on, because I can give it better context for the value of those. But yes, definitely, you can use WinBack for dormant leads, 100%.
So how does this compare to winning new business then?
Well, so basically, the difference between WinBack and winning new businesses, or the biggest things, are with WinBack, you sell more in less time at a lower cost. The win rate is 5 times as high for for WinBack versus new business. So that's why you win more business. It's done in less time because the sales cycle for for a past customer is only 70% the time of a new customer. Just think of it, right? Just for all the reasons we just said, right? You've already spent all that time nurturing the relationship and educating them and everything, right? So we've got so you win customers back at 5 times the rate. That's why it's faster. It takes less time because the sales cycle is 70% shorter, and it's cheaper because McKinsey said that it costs as little as 1/10 the price to win back a past customer as it does a current customer, for all the reasons we had talked about earlier.
Yes. So if this is so great, why isn't everybody doing it? I don't get why they wouldn't be taking advantage of this great idea.
Exactly. And I think that, there's all kinds of surface reasons, right? People don't think their customers will come back, or they don't have staff, or they don't have a process. Those are all important reasons. But I think that the core underlying reason is they don't know the numbers, right? They don't know that 1 in 4 will come back. They don't know the tremendous revenue that they can generate when these people come back. You know, they don't know that they could double customer lifetime value. If they knew all of these things, I'm sure that a lot more would do it. But what they do is they focus on acquisition. And as part of our business culture, they're rewarded for acquiring new customers. That's what Wall Street values, that VCs value that, PE companies value that. But if they knew that you could win back 5 times as many customers, that the win rate was 5 times higher, if they knew that the sales cycle was shorter, they would. And I mean, that's what my mission is, right? To really shine a light on these numbers and try to get that word out that you've got a lot of revenue sitting in that business,
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been doing this since 2016. Tell
Yes.
me a little bit about the process. How do you do what you do?
Okay. So the first thing is we gather all of our people, all of our lost customers together, make a list of them, and then we take out the people that uh, we don't believe are going to be profitable,
Mhm.
and we start ranking everybody else. So we take a look at their past ROI. Well, the basic idea is we want to find the people who've got the highest potential ROI, right? So we look for people who won't cost much to acquire, people who were very profitable in the past, people who had a high lifetime value in the past, right? So we get this group, and then what we do is we do some research, right? So first we do internal research. We take a look at, um, uh, we talk to our AEs and our customer success people, anybody who's had significant client content. We ask them, why do you think this customer left, and what do you think it'll take to win them back? And then what we do is we do external research. So now we go and we talk to the clients themselves. We ask them, why did you leave? What it'll take to get to win you back. It's a lot more in depth than that. Of course, we get the idea. Like, what competitor? Who did you go with? Why did you choose them? What value proposition? What part of their value proposition made them more appealing? All that kind of stuff, right? So we identify who we want. We research them to get this intel, and then if we find that we've fallen short somewhere, right? We're not competitive in some area, then we make that refinement. And then what we do is we take a look for our win back path, right? So we want to select a path that we're going to take with our database of past customers. So we can choose a path that focuses on generating more market share. We can create a path that focuses more on revenue. We can create a path that's more based on profit. We can play a longer game. We can play a shorter game. There's all kinds of paths up this mountain. And so what we do is we figure out what's the best path for our particular company based on what our goals are. And then what we do is we deploy. And I like to have 2 or 3 flavors of our approach before we deploy, so we can test
Mhm.
different approaches, because what we want to do is we want to end up obviously with the optimal approach for our company, and we don't know what that approach is until we test different ones,
Right.
and then we deploy, and that's it. That's the process.
Yeah. Wow. And do you do your own surveys then, or do you hire an outside company to do the surveys for you with those ex-customers?
Well, we find that um, if it's some kind of a third party doing the interviewing, they'll open up more. They don't want to say something bad about the company to the,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Tell
so
me
that
why you
helps.
left our company.
That's right. Come on, that's not fair.
Yeah,
So yeah,
don't do that.
so having somebody external is a definite help. But we found that even just having somebody who's 1 or 2 steps removed, like a marketing manager,
Mhm.
or a customer success person who isn't directly involved, or you could even come in as some kind of a department head that's looking to do better. So we're doing research. We're trying to find out where we fell short, because we're trying to do better. So it's if you position it that way, any kind of a department head, especially somebody who's new in a department,
Mhm.
who I've been tasked with trying to find out why people are leaving, and I'd appreciate 15 minutes of your time, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah. And that seems to work, huh?
Yep, definitely.
All right. So what do you think is the best type of company that could use this strategy that you're doing?
Well, I think that one of the best types of companies is a SaaS company. They've got very high margins. They suffer from a lot of attrition. Uh, they suck at win back. They really do. I mean, I've and that's not me talking. That's people within the industry who've seen inside of hundreds and hundreds of SaaS companies. They just don't focus on it, and it's because uh, when the CEO of a SaaS company, is looking for more funding, another round,
Yeah.
they've got to go in front of that VC or PE firm, and they've got to say, we've got 100 net new logos last quarter. That's what the VC wants to hear.
Yeah.
So that's what happens.
Mhm. Are there other types of companies besides those SaaS companies that you think this would work for?
Yeah, I think that any company who has a decent amount of attrition, right? So if you're losing more than 3 or 4% of your customers a year, you've got to use this, right? This is the low-hanging fruit in your business.
Mhm.
So it's really worth, the focus. And even if you're a company that doesn't have 3 or 4%, if you've got just like 1 or 2%, you don't need to do a strategic win back. Like what I'm talking about is a strategic win back. Ad hoc doesn't get you the kind of numbers that I'm talking about. This is an actual strategy, like the
Yeah,
process I was telling
process.
you about.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
so if you've only got 1 or 2%, you don't need to put in It's not, the ROI just isn't worth putting in all the effort I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just do outreach to your customers. Ask how they're doing. Why they left. What can you do to win them back? Just very basic stuff.
So you work for a company and you do this. Do you also help other companies do this?
Definitely. I'm more of a research and advisory firm. I continue to um, talk to sales leaders who are doing win back
Mhm.
and learning new approaches. Like every week, I learn new approaches, and it's just amazing. And I'm not going to stop this until I stop hearing something new, because the number of there's so many smart people out there who've done win back, and who've been very successful at it. So I continue to learn so that I can uh, give my clients, the best advice possible.
Yeah, right. So what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? Well, I used to travel. I used to love to travel.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
did a lot of traveling, and yeah, I just love, like different cultures. So going into a country for a couple of months and just soaking up the culture, I just love doing that. Um, yeah, just hanging out with my dog,
Yeah.
traveling, and maybe the odd time going onto a patio and having a couple of beers and some nachos. That doesn't hurt either.
And what's your vision for what you're doing right now?
Well, there's I don't want to, beat a dead horse here, but there's just so much money sitting in so many companies out there. There's this huge revenue engine, and people just need to find the keys and turn it on.
Mhm.
And 10 years ago, we didn't have customer success teams. Now everybody's got them, right?
Yeah.
And it's because they're very valuable, extremely valuable. And my goal is in 10 years for win-back teams to be as commonplace as customer success teams, because I think win-back is that valuable. So that's my mission.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. Well, one thing that I always ask everybody who's on with me is, what are 3 traits that you think are necessary for people to exhibit in order for them to become really successful?
I think mindset first, knowing that, or believing that things can be better, and it's really worth the time, effort, money, sacrifice to make that happen. So mindset is one thing. Being a continuous learner, so you can feed that mindset with lots of great stuff, lots of great ideas.
Uh-huh.
And I think the other thing is being physically fit, so that your brain really can work well, so you have the energy to climb that mountain.
Yeah. Wow, those are great. So one thing that I like to also find out about from people is, what was your path? How did you go from where you first started in your career to doing what you're doing now? So can you just give us a little brief overview of that path?
Sure. I used to work at in commodities, and it was an incredibly high stress job.
Yeah.
So I was so whacked out by the end of my 20s. I had to take a year off, just traveled the world just to recuperate. I was just toast. Uh, and then uh, and then I got into marketing at a mutual fund company, and I did that for a number of years. And then I 20 years ago, I thought, I'd like to walk my own path. So I started the Business Source, that company that has I talked about earlier, with 2 other people. And we went through all these ups and downs, right? We like reinvented ourselves like 3 times, like with the dot-com crash, and
Yeah.
the big recession in 2000, and was that 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
And then I discovered WinBack in 2016, and this just lit me up. So that's kind of like my passion. You see me smile. Like, I mean, I don't talk about this about my other business. This is really exciting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on with me. How can people reach you?
So you can, if you go to strategicwinback.com, you can reach me there. You can see the study, and we've got a lot of articles on LinkedIn, and there's links to those at the website.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you.
Great talking to you, Pat. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to the Soar to Success podcast. For more insights into growing your business or improving your quality of life, visit soartosuccessmagazine.com and subscribe to the Soar to Success podcast on iTunes.